Hi all, it's great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining me here, giving up some time on your Sunday. My name's Sherry. I'm a somatic coach. I focus on somatic experiencing, dynamic attachment repatterning, and embodied breathwork. And I live in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So I usually like to give, 1 to 2 minutes prior to jumping in. Just give people time to show up and settle in. I know not everyone is exactly on time, especially on a weekend. So if anyone feels like popping in and saying hi, I would love to hear from you, maybe where you're tuning in from today, or a little bit about you and what drew you to this event. Oh, hi, Rhonda. Good to see you. South Carolina. What's the weather like there right now? I know Mexico, we've started to heat up just the last. Hi, Victoria from Ontario. Good to see you. Just the last week, it's definitely started to have like some summer vibes here. So I hope you guys are having some lovely spring weather and toasty and thunderstorms. Well, I guess that that could be good or bad depending on if you like thunderstorms, right? I'm not sure about the toasty. Being middle-aged, toasty feels different to me than it did when I was in my 20s and my 30s. But I enjoy a good thunderstorm. We haven't quite gotten to the rainy season here. We have probably another month, 2 months before the tropical storms start. So about 2 minutes passed, and even though I like to give time for people to come in, I also want to respect your time for the people who have shown up right at the start. Cool and rain, huh? Light blanket, that sounds around August here in Mexico. Cool and a light rain sounds really lovely. So it sounds like a nice kind of relaxing day to sit in and cuddle up and listen to a lecture and meditation, which is what we're going to be doing today. So this is day 5 out of 10 for our 10-part series on nervous system regulation. And over the last few sessions, we've been exploring how stress and overwhelm show up in the body. Now, we're going to begin to notice maybe we see those shifts a little earlier and we can respond with even more care. And what we're going to be doing today is going into kind of a different type of exploration. And this is one that doesn't begin with a tool or a strategy. It's something much simpler and more primal. So what we're going to do is we're going to be exploring our body's natural impulses. Those small, spontaneous movements or urges that arise without planning or thought. So it's not like I learned this somatic tool and I notice I'm stressed and I'm going to implement it. This is really different from that. Because what we're doing is we're looking at our own body's impulses. What does the body want to do in that moment? Which is more nuanced. Because these impulses can often be very quiet. And we have to learn to listen for them. But it's important because they carry a lot of wisdom. And they emerge as part of the body's natural attempts to regulate itself. So I'm sure we've all felt these before, maybe without recognizing what they were. And, they can look like this pull to turn away from a loud, harsh sound, or the need to stretch, or fidget, or shift in your seat. Maybe some tightness in your hands or arms when you feel angry, or a yawn when you're bored. And most of us override these signals. without even realizing it, especially if we learn to prioritize being socially appropriate and in control, are sitting still over movement and expression. But these signals aren't random. They're the body's attempt to guide us back towards balance. So this session's really about tuning in. We're not to fix or interpret, but just learning to listen. And when we learn to track these impulses and allow them to complete, even in subtle ways, we're reinforcing our system's natural intelligence. We're telling the body, I hear you, I'm with you, and you don't have to work so hard alone. So the way we're going to do it is I work off, for those of you who haven't been with me before, I work off copious notes because otherwise I tend to just meander all over the place. And that's not really conductive to learning something, especially in a 45-minute period. So what I tend to do is I do have one eye on the screen, but I like to circle back to anything that's been put in the chat at the end of the session. And that way I can stay on track, make sure that I'm giving you the knowledge you showed up for. And then at the end, I usually extend for a few minutes over time. And I take that time to go into the comments, acknowledge or answer any questions that have been put in there. So if I don't answer you right away, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get to it. It just means that I circle back to it at the end. And we're going to spend the first part of our session learning more about these impulses and what they are, how they work, why they matter. And then we're going to go into an experiential practice where you'll have space to follow what arises and just notice what unfolds in you. So you don't need to have any particular goal today. There's nothing to get right. The only invitation is to begin noticing and trust that your system already knows something and how to move back towards balance. So an important part of this is understanding what a somatic impulse even is. When I say somatic impulse, what I'm talking about is a spontaneous, body-led urge that arises not from logic or planning, but from within the nervous system. And it may show up as a need to move, reposition, vocalize, or discharge energy in some way. It's often in response to something your nervous system is trying to process or complete. And these impulses are different from habits or automatic reactions. They tend to be specific, and they carry a kind of precision. They can arise in stillness, but they also emerge in moments of charge. So, these sudden urges to cry, to put distance between ourselves and something. Maybe we want to press our feet into the floor, or we have this urge to reach forward towards someone. All of these are expressions of a system trying to regulate, express, and reorient. And what often happens is that we override or interrupt these impulses, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of conditioning. We've learned to stay seated, to keep still, to appear composed, to be, good, socialized people, good students, good workers. And over time, we lose fluency in the body's language, and we start to mistrust our own instincts. And these impulses matter, and we give them space. We create a bridge between our inner experience and the body's attempt to process it. We're not trying to explain or analyze what's happening. We're simply following a thread that begins in sensation and unfolds through movement or expression. And you might not know why an impulse is there. That's okay. Our logical mind wants to know. We're meaning-making machines, right? But the meaning isn't always obvious. And it doesn't actually need to be. Because the nervous system isn't working in language. It's working in patterns of completion and restoration. And the more you build your capacity to notice and support these movements, the more responsive and trustworthy your system becomes. Over time, this isn't just a technique. It's a way of relating to your body with presence, patience, and partnership. So, before we move into the science of how these impulses function, it's worth pausing to name something important. Many of us have learned, either explicitly or implicitly, not to trust these natural urges. Maybe you were punished if you didn't sit still. Or you were told, don't make noise, stop fidgeting, yawning's rude. Possibly, it felt safer to hold things in than risk drawing attention to yourself and being misunderstood or judged. And over time, we internalize the idea that movement is disruptive, emotions inconvenient, and strength and stoicism is the way we should be. We were rewarded for that, right? So even when impulses do arise, we're so conditioned that we hesitate. We second guess ourselves, we disconnect, and it's not a personal failing. It's an adaptation. So part of the work that we do is gently undoing some of that conditioning and rebuilding a relationship where your body knows that it will be listened to. So let's look at how that relationship is actually wired and why it matters so much. From a biological perspective, impulses are part of the nervous system's self-regulating toolkit. They reflect the body's innate drive to complete cycles, especially those linked to the stress, survival responses, or unfinished activation. In somatic experiencing, this is often described as completing the thwart impulse. And the idea is that when a survival impulse, like the urge to flee, to fight, freeze, or call out for help, can't be acted on at the time, the energy behind it actually remains trapped in our system. Over time, that trapped energy can show up as, maybe chronic tension, often, jaw, neck, shoulders, but other places in the body as well. It can also look like emotional reactivity, hypervigilance, or even a complete shutdown. Like we're here, but we're not here, right? And the impulse itself can become more diffuse. So it's harder to access consciously because it just kind of becomes our set state. We don't even notice it. But the body still carries it. And it's waiting for the right conditions to be able to complete that loop. So this is where perception becomes critical. Interoception is our ability to feel internal signals like heart rate, muscle tone, breath quality, and proprioception helps us to sense our body in space. Neuroception is It's a term from polyvagal theory, and it's the body's unconscious ability to detect safety or threat in the environment. And when these systems are all working in harmony, we're likely to recognize impulses as they arrive and feel safe enough to follow them. So, following an impulse with mindful attention offers the nervous system a chance to resolve what it couldn't finish earlier. So, for example, you might notice the urge to push when discussing a boundary violation. I see clients doing this in sessions a lot, completely unaware they're doing it. Or maybe you feel yourself actually start to tremble when you're thinking about a time when you were like literally frozen in fear. And when we notice these things and we support them, these expressions, following these impulses isn't re-traumatizing. It's actually regulating. And it's important to clarify. This process is not about reliving or dramatizing past events. It's actually about allowing the body to engage with what's happening now through sensation, movement, and a paced timing that feels tolerable. So trauma work, working around trauma, should never be re-traumatizing. And it's all about noticing what's happening while building a foundation of safety from the inside out. So when our impulses are met with presence, like we see them, we recognize them, and we consciously allow them to complete, even in subtle ways, we're not just reducing stress. We're showing the nervous system that it's actually safe to come out of survival and back into connection. Like we want to get back into ventral vagal, right? So sometimes this ability to follow impulses, it's not just about the present moment. It's actually shaped by past experiences. For example, as children, I know that a lot of us learned that maybe it wasn't safe to express ourselves. You know, that whole thing of children should be seen but not heard. I grew up in a house like that. I don't know about anyone else. But, you know, if your family wasn't safe, if they didn't want to hear what you thought, maybe expressing yourself wasn't safe. Or maybe, you know, you were criticized and you weren't allowed to move. Yeah, it can be really hard to unlearn that stuff, and no wonder it gets trapped if we grow up hearing that no one wants to hear it, right? That's really hard to overcome as adults. You know, some of us weren't allowed to cry or resist, you know, like, don't you talk back to me, right? Parents sometimes tend to forget that children are little humans. And we have thoughts and feelings, and they're just as valid as everyone else. And we need to be able to express them. And if our natural impulses were dismissed or punished or ignored, then our nervous system's adapted by muting those cues. And it's not something we're choosing to do. It's something the body learned to do in order to stay safe. So it actually became an adapted survival response. And reclaiming those impulses now, it's not about forcing expression. It's about restoring choice. So that's really important. We want to choose whether or not to express it based on how safe we feel. And as the body begins to trust again, when we meet it with consistent, like it will start to trust and talk to us when we meet it with consistent and respectful attention. So we're gonna move into the practical exercise part now. I like to give a lot of time to this because we can logically understand theory. But this is somatic work, right? We don't want to just logically understand it. We want to experience it and feel it for ourselves. Yeah. So I don't play music during the practical parts. And that's by choice because I know everyone has different preferences. So some of you might prefer just to listen to the sound of my voice, or maybe you have a favorite playlist or favorite meditation song that you like. Yeah. And I really want you to make this your space and get as comfortable and relaxed as possible. So go ahead, and if you want music, take the time to get that going. I'm going to allow a few moments now. And I'm going to encourage you to find a position that feels supported. That means you can sit, lie down, stand. You can even walk, right? We have meditative walking in Qigong. So if you're like to listen and move, and you want to do this as a moving meditation, then do it as a moving meditation. There's no rules here, and you can't get it wrong. Just want to listen to what your body's telling you to do. So whatever allows you to feel grounded and at ease. And just remember, there's nothing to fix here. You're not broken, so there's nothing to fix. All we're doing is showing up and bringing some awareness to what our system might be trying to tell us. So once you're settled in, we're going to take a moment to just gently scan through your body. You're going to begin at the top of your head. Just slowly move your awareness downwards through your face, your neck, your shoulders, your back, chest and arms, and hands, and belly, pelvis, legs, all the way down to the soles of your feet. Just pause anywhere that draws your attention. You're not trying to change anything. Just notice. What's here right now? What feels awake or quiet, tense or soft, present or distant? And whatever it is, simply allow the answers to come through sensation versus thought. And when you're ready, there's no rush. I'm going to invite you to bring your awareness to your breath. And just notice where you feel it the most clearly. Maybe in your nostrils, your chest, or the belly. don't try to manipulate the breath or control it in any way. Just notice, how is the breath moving in this moment? Is it shallow or full? Smooth or rough? Fast or slow? And you don't need to do anything here. Simply stay close to it, like a gentle companion. Feel the inhale as it enters and the exhale as it leaves. And allow this rhythm to hold you as you continue. And we're going to begin to move even deeper, listening inwards. Again, not with the logic of our mind. We listen to our mind's logic all day, every day. This time, right here and now, is a time to listen to your body. So we're not thinking, we're observing the way we would a science experiment, something we're trying, something we're just interested in. We're not even trying to figure out, something that catches our attention, right? So just meet your body with that same curiosity. And just notice, is there an urge to move? Maybe a shift in the quality of your breath, a need to reposition or adjust. Do you notice a pull to sigh or yawn, reach, curl up, or settle? Is there an emotion surfacing? Is your system holding energy that wants to push, or claw, or stomp, or vocalize, or strike? Unlike more standard or traditional meditations, where we're cued to ignore these things. In somatic work, we see this as really important information that should be honored. It's not an inconvenience, and it's not getting in the way. It's your body talking to you. And all of these impulses are welcome. So for now, we're going to choose one impulse and just allow yourself to begin following it. Not automatically, but mindfully. So maybe you often fidget or stretch or yawn without even noticing. And it might seem like doing it here wouldn't be helpful. However, the real difference is our presence. bringing your full attention into this. So you're not simply performing the movement. It's not rota, right? You're actually inhabiting it. We're going into with our mind with curiosity and noticing what does that really feel like in my body? First of all, how do I know that I'm having this impulse? What lets me know that my body wants to do that? And how does it feel? What muscles are engaged? What does the skin do? What if I maybe it's yawning, what happens in the jaw and the throat, even down into the chest and abdomen when I allow myself to have that yawn? What part of this movement is the most satisfying? And what lets me know that that's the satisfying part? How does it feel when I give myself permission instead of trying to stifle something in an attempt to be socially appropriate, or focus, or fit in, or whatever that message is? So we're taking that impulse and we're really slowing it down, sensing the minutia. Muscles engaging, joints moving. And if you do feel something like anger rising up in you, and the impulse is to strike out, maybe, and a lot of us are conditioned not to feel angry, like it's dangerous. And so we suppress that, or we feel guilt or shame. But if you do feel that impulse come up to strike, we're just playing with this. Just experiment, with giving that anger permission to be here, because it's a valid emotion. It's okay to feel angry. It doesn't make you a bad person. And we can express anger in safe, healthy ways. No one has to get hurt. We get to balance that. Thank you, guys. So if anger rises up and you feel an urge to strike, visualize the contact. Maybe feel that moment of connection. I do this with clients a lot. That moment of connection. And just sense it in detail. And just notice what about that would feel satisfying. What does the body want to experience fully? Are there any words or sounds that would feel good with whatever the gesture is? And what combination would feel the most satisfying to your system right now? Something else we can experiment with is the pace. So we can try doing the movement faster, allowing the energy to move through you with momentum. And then we slow it way down, almost as if you're moving through thick mud or drying cement, maybe quicksand. Quicksand's a good one too. And just notice what's different. I'm doing punching because I practice slow-mo punching a lot with my clients. Just notice what that feels like, whatever it is. You don't have to be mad today. I'm focusing on anger because lots of times that needs encouragement, but you don't have to be mad right now. So whatever it is and whatever you're modeling, just notice as you give yourself permission and play with it, what happens in your breath, or your posture, or your focus. And we're going to allow that experience to inform you. What does each version of this reveal about how your individual body holds and releases charge? And there's absolutely no right way. You're discovering what brings your body into fuller expression and how it responds when you bring your awareness to it. And that likely looks different for every single one of us. So you may have found an impulse that feels really good that you want to stay with for a while and explore further. Or possibly another impulse is coming up. And if so, we can just follow whatever's new that arises and wants our attention. So regardless of what you choose, we're going to approach it with the same presence, detailed sensing, curiosity, and full permission to explore. Because we're in a safe environment, right? This is completely safe. We have a safety container here. And in this version, the way we're practicing today, no one gets hurt. Even if we see people maybe getting hurt in our heads, they don't actually get hurt. So give yourself permission to explore. And this isn't about catharsis for its own sake. And it's not about shutting anything down. It's about trusting the innate intelligence of your system. So your body already knows the exact right thing to do. Our role is to learn how to listen. So just lightly keep your attention on how your system responds. Not just to the impulse itself, but to the way you accompany it. When we bring full presence to a movement, the nervous system begins to learn that it can complete, that it can settle, and doesn't have to stay stuck in these protective patterns. And just as important as feeling these impulses is feeling the response in the body and what happens, what changes in you when you get to do what the body's been wanting to do. Is there a sense of relief? Is there a sense of completion? Maybe an opening, feeling like you're able to relax. Or sometimes, maybe the emotions feel heightened. That doesn't happen a lot in sessions with clients. Usually it feels really good to complete these impulses. If not, if you feel like the emotions become stronger, often that means that we're doing too much at once and we're taking our system out of its window of tolerance. Yeah, so that's really important. Really, really important. We should feel better afterwards. And I've had clients who say, oh, I scream in the car and I scream so hard and I feel even worse. That tells me we need more regulation. Yeah, we have to feel safe. And so that's why we play with things like slowing it way down and moving even more mindfully. Or if we're screaming, maybe we're not just focusing on the sound, we're focusing on like, what does the face feel like? What does the jaw feel like? What does the throat feel like? We bring more mindfulness to things and we go even slower. And often that allows us to either feel better, like actually feel better mindfully in the movement, or it can trigger a mini release. Maybe we cry, maybe we do get emotional, but that's fairly quick release. It's energy leaving the system. And then we come back and we resettle and we feel like that cleansing or that clearing. So it's okay if it's delayed by like 5 minutes too. It might just be the energy actually moving, which is what we're looking for. And we can find a balance with this in our day-to-day life, right? Like, I'm not encouraging anyone to leave here today and go into work on Monday and punch their boss, right? Like, that's not going to actually help your life or make anyone feel any better. There's a reason we don't do those things. Yeah. But you might notice that it feels good to go into the bathroom at work and do a slow motion punch while you imagine punching your boss. That might feel good for you. Or maybe you're in the office and you really want to move. You notice you really want to move, so you let yourself shake your leg, right? Or you give yourself permission to get up and go to the bathroom or get some water, not because you actually need to, but because your body's telling you it needs to move. And we're learning to honor that. So we're going to start wrapping up here today. So if you're still moving, if you're still completing impulses, we're going to just start to come back into stillness. No effort here. Simply noticing what remains. You sense in your breath, your muscles, your internal pace. Keep in mind that this transitioning is part of the process. It's really important to notice what is emerging, and your system might still be integrating. So, if your eyes are still closed, you might begin to open them slowly and just take in your surroundings. Just orient yourself to the room. Allow yourself to notice where you are right now in this present moment. You can wiggle your fingers or toes. Maybe give a nice stretch. The body's asking for it. Just small actions to re-engage and create a bridge from your inner experience back to your environment. And just pause here. There's absolutely nothing you need to do right now. Just allow yourself to sit and settle. And if it feels supportive, you might place one hand over the chest or belly, or wherever feels the most grounding for you. Just give yourself a bit of support for a job well done. You just practice something really powerful, not by forcing change, but by allowing space for what's already there. And the more often you return to this kind of noticing, the more your body will learn to trust that you're listening. So thank you all so much for being here today and exploring this with me. And if something landed for you, feel free to carry it into the week and just notice the effects. Next Sunday, same time, we'll explore a visualization as a tool for safety and regulation. And you're welcome anytime, whether it's your first session with me or your fifth. So I'm going to get caught up here in the chat. Hi, Howard from San Diego. I was in San Diego for about 15 years before I moved to Mexico. Yeah, and every year it was getting rainier. May, gray, June gloom extended from November until July, I think, by the time I left. Yeah, it's Rhonda, it's really helpful to notice that you yawn when you're nervous. And that yawning can mean different things for different people, right? Like sometimes we yawn because we're tired. Sometimes we're nervous. Sometimes the brain's like, oh, this is really interesting and I want to be awake for this. So this whole thing socially where we attack meaning on something someone's done and judge it, it seems a bit silly, right? Once we start looking and we're like, oh, it could mean so many different things. And we never even asked. And what a great thing to notice that this is something you do. So I would be really curious to know, after you yawn, do you feel less nervous? Does it feel like something moved or released when you do that? Let's see, Christine. Is it possible it's not really a movement but a tension of muscles? Definitely. Yeah, it could be. And your muscles, by the way, your muscles could be tense because there's a movement we're suppressing, right? They could be tense, like sometimes it's tense because I know I did punching a lot. I promise I'm actually not a violent person, but this is something we play with a lot. It could be, a lot of times it's carrying a burden and we feel like we're holding it all on our own, right? Lots of times we're not getting the support. Either we're not getting support at all or we're not getting the support that we're actually looking for. People are misunderstanding the type of support we're looking for. Or maybe we learned from the time we were a little kid that we have to hold everything on our own. And so even I do a lot with clients where I ask them, I name the burden and ask them to imagine handing it over to me. Or imagine just getting to set that down for a little bit. So yeah, it can be a lot of different things. It can be a movement we're suppressing. It could be a protective response, right? Like this is very protective for our organs. It could be a burden that we don't even realize we're carrying because we've been holding it on our own for so long. Let's see, came in late. Angie, doesn't screaming activate the limbic system in the brain, which is connected to stress and anger? So screaming, it's about doing it mindfully, Angie. That's the difference. So they've actually done studies, right? And I'm not going to tell a client, if something feels good and it feels like a release to them, it is not up to me to tell them that's wrong. Your system, it's up to people to feel in their system and know, because everyone's different. And you're going to know more about your body than I ever possibly could. What I do cue clients to do is to do it really mindfully. Feel the facial expressions, feel what happens in the body, feel the breath. Lots of times when we slow things down, really slow, and make it very mindful, we get a lot more of a release than if we go in hard and fast. Hard and fast, beating with a bat can feel good, or it can push us into overwhelm. And if you notice that you have to keep doing it, that shows us that we're not releasing. We're just getting catharsis, which feels better in the moment. And yes, it does release all of the stress hormones, and it can push a lot of people into overwhelm. Yeah, so let's see, Rhonda, I've noticed when I remember an event that was embarrassing or I'm worried, I made someone mad, I will have a single vocal tick, kind of like Tourette's syndrome. It's not a real word and maybe just one syllable. Yeah, I have a lot of clients who we do like sounds, right? Like sometimes we're doing like boundaries or punching or clawing or whatever it is. And, I get words like no or get out, and sometimes it's just like, ah. I mean, that can feel really satisfying. So I would wonder, and not socially appropriate, right? Like I would guess that it wouldn't be a good result if you went around school as a kid, or around work right now, or maybe the grocery store, kind of going like, ah. um, but that's the sound an animal makes when it's stressed or upset. And at our core, we're animals. So I would wonder if this little single vocal tick is kind of like a small version, a small, like more socially appropriate, suppressed version of something bigger that your system wants to do. So I would just play with it and feel into it. And a lot of these things we can do silently in our heads, or we can revisit at a time when we're not going to be judged or ostracized for expressing ourselves. Yeah. And, when we complete mindfully, and we get to feel the satisfaction of that, and we can visualize the scenario when we did want to do it. That actually, our brains don't know. Our brains don't know the difference between imagining and reality a lot of times. And so if you imagine the situation where you wanted to do it, and you mindfully explore it, and you let yourself feel the satisfaction of doing that, it can actually complete and feel like you got to do it in that moment. So that can be the real benefit, and really fun to play with, because the reality is it's a stressful world. We all get stressed, and there's not enough of an outlet because strong emotions are considered scary or socially inappropriate, right? We're not supposed to lose control. So it can be really helpful to go back and play with that. Yeah, play with that on our own. And also bringing in I said I do dynamic attachment repatterning, which is all about support. What was missing in that scenario? What support did you need that wasn't there? Or what support would have been nice to have? So we can visualize not only getting to do this, but having our competent protector, our person who has our back, or, and having them there to support us, and getting to do that safely and with support, and that can make a huge difference. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that you feel less alone, Maria. My burden tension turned into ticks. Yeah, it's really, really interesting to play with. And I don't know, you probably find it on YouTube. There's an amazing video of Peter Levine, who developed somatic experiencing, working with a war veteran who multiple doctors had diagnosed with Tourette's. He kept doing this, and no one could figure it out. And when Peter was talking to him, they slowed it down. And this guy had actually been in an explosion in a war zone. A lot of his friends had died. There was an explosion, and he was turning. When they slowed it down, they realized he was turning. It wasn't a tick. He was turning away from that explosion. And he was doing it. It was coming up, and he was doing it over and over and over again when he was stressed. So it's definitely something and it happens, Maria, it happens. I'm so glad, like I said, you don't feel alone in this, because so many of us deal with this because we're not taught what to do with these things, or how to explore them on our own, or that they aren't necessarily like medical conditions or something wrong with us, that the body might be doing it for a reason. Peter Levine, let me type it. Levine. I'm not sure if the video's on YouTube still or not, but if you can find it, it's really fascinating. Oh, you're very welcome, Rhonda. And, it's so beautiful to see everyone here and supporting each other. This work is so important that, so many of us do self-work, right? Self-work, and we're doing it all on our own. And we were made to actually function in heart coherence, in ventral vagal. And so much of what we're carrying is because we didn't have the support that we needed in the moment. So it's really amazing to be able to come here together and learn about this and support each other. And anyone who wants to come back, I would love to, see people on a regular basis on Sundays, and we can kind of get to know each other, through the chat, and really give each other that support, right? That healing support, be able to heal in community versus feeling like, oh, maybe I'm the weirdo or I'm the odd one out, and feeling like we have to carry all this on our own, because we weren't meant to. We were never meant to have to do all this on our own. Yeah, thank you guys so much. And I love seeing all the little hearts because, it's great to hear that what I'm saying makes an impact and is being understood, and it's support for me, right? Like, yeah, the support is so important. And thank you all so much for turning up. I really, really, truly appreciate you. I have to run because I have another appointment after this. But if anything feels incomplete, if you have any questions, if you want to reach out and you didn't feel like the chat was the appropriate place to put it, I do have messages activated on Insight Timer. So you're more than welcome to message me if any questions, any requests you might have. Oh, good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Rhonda. Thank you. And my plan is to complete this I'm doing it as like a 10-day course. We're doing it over 10 weeks. And after that, so that's already kind of set. And after that, I'm open to suggestions of anything you guys want to hear, lecture style or meditations. So just let me know. And hopefully I'll get to know some of you even more. And I'll see you back here next Sunday. So thank you all so much. And I hope you have a really great rest of your day.